So let's dive into it now. You're wearing your hat, I'm wearing my hat. The 49ers all over the Eagles, 42-19. I'm
The
in a
biggest
great
win,
mood.
the biggest win we got was Don the Security being the hero of Philadelphia.
Right.
That's the biggest
All of a
win we
sudden,
got.
everybody knows who he is now.
Yeah, exactly.
He was able to get Draymond Greenlaw, as
Yeah,
you called him.
okay,
Yeah,
look,
yeah.
we'll dive into this game, but you can admit, yes, he should not have put his hands on him, but the way it's being told, he didn't punch Draymond Greenlaw. He didn't punch Greenlaw. He didn't, erratically shove him out of the way. He just separated a fight, put the hands on Greenlaw's waist, and said, "Hey, bud, chill out." Greenlaw took offense, put a finger in
Yeah.
the face,
Well,
and then it became a pissing match of words.
right. Yeah. No. He's honestly, he should only be making contact with his own players.
Right.
I
Well, I
think
agree with that.
that's the problem. As soon as he touched Dre Greenlaw,
I know. I can't unsay it.
I can't unsay it. Yeah, Dre Greenlaw was ready to go, and that wasn't really that much of a punch. It was more like a face wash,
Yeah,
like you see in hockey. But
to me, I don't look. Say if he gets a fine, great. Don't ban the head of security for the Eagles for that. That's ridiculous, right? Like, make a donation. Have both the guys make a donation to the charity of Greenlaw's choosing. I guess best
What do you
case
mean
scenario.
he was banned? So he's banned from ever.
No, no,
being
no,
on
no,
the
no, no.
field?
There's talks that they're diving into it more, and they may ban him completely.
oh yeah, like a rest of the season suspension or something like that. Or,
Yeah, could be.
Well, I
mean,
don't
who
agree
knows?
with that. I think if Greenlaw gets booted from the game, so did Dude.
Yeah.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
you got to look at it too that Tyreek, his NFL hired a PR guy for the Dolphins who previously worked for Tyreek. Tyreek took his phone. That kid got fired from the NFL and can no longer work sideline games as a PR person, which is
Right.
ridiculous.
Well, Tyreek is going to pay him out though.
Exactly,
least,
but that's my point is that would not shock me if NFL just banned our head of security for the whole season for something ridiculous, something absolutely ridiculous. In my opinion.
We'll see how this shakes out.
But
yeah,
yes,
so
your team
let's
whooped my
talk about
ass.
the game. So that first quarter was all Eagles, and then the second, third, and fourth quarter was all Niners. Basically, I think the game was lost by the Eagles when they went down the field on those first two drives and only kicked field goals. At that point,
I would say the 49ers won the game.
right. The 49ers won the game because they held the Eagles to 2 field goals to start the drive, and then they figured it out and just started scoring touchdowns and nothing but after that. And Brock Purdy keeps making throws that Jimmy Garoppolo could never, ever.
I want to run the tape back about when Vince said that he's not 100% sold on Purdy.
Well, no,
just yet.
that's because I wasn't. I'm more
at that time.
At the time, I wasn't.
At the
time, because based on the information that I had at the time, you have a 7th round pick. I mean, if you look back to like the Patriots, like after that first Super Bowl that Tom Brady won, people were still doubting him at that point. Because he was a 6th rounder, because he was a late round pick. And so that's just part of the NFL culture. That's just part of NFL culture. If you're a 1st round pick, Zach Wilson keeps getting shots with the fucking Jets.
But
whereas if you're a 7th rounder,
point,
6th
Vince,
rounder, what?
To piggyback off of your point, Vince, I think it was his rookie year, they win the Super Bowl, right?
Well, no, it was his second year, but it was his first year starting.
First year started, they went
because Drew Bledsoe got hurt.
Correct.
Like 2 games in.
But then I think was it his 3rd year as the full-time starter, or maybe the 4th year as the full-time starter, that the Patriots missed the playoffs. They weren't very good. They got eliminated.
They were mid. Yeah, they
were mid, and then they kind of got better.
And they won 2 in a row after that. Yeah,
right. But there was a year that they missed the playoffs, like by a game or a couple games.
Yeah,
maybe.
there was. I think they were like 9-7 or something like that.
Right, and he was Tom Brady was being criticized for.
Yeah, people wanted to put Drew Bledsoe back in, but
they wanted Drew Bledsoe back. So that's true to your point for sure.
Mm-hmm. And it's because he was young and it was a late round pick.
Right.
They are a lot more expendable. They get a lot less leeway. And I was just based on that that culture, I guess, it's because Zach Wilson was the second overall pick, he keeps getting chances after chances when we've seen that he doesn't have it. But also that like the people that are behind him.
Exactly. Yeah.
Worse.
I mean,
so that's the other part of that. But even
Zach Wilson is guilty of his own team's lack of depth at this point.
Like Zach Wilson is going to be a career backup if he stays any longer.
And that's fine.
And that's whatever. That's fine. That's his thing.
But I'll take $6 million to sit on a bench with a clipboard.
Right. Yeah. Just Billy Volek it, man.
No, I mean,
getting back.
Let's get back to the game. Let's get back.
Go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, getting back to this game. I mean, to Vince's point, that first quarter ended, and then everything went exactly how it should have gone for the 49ers. I mean, I have been saying since week 1 that I have issues with my OC. I still have issues with my OC. Now there's reports that, it's on the head coach and it's also not so much on the offensive coordinator. Whatever you want to do to deflect in the front office to try and eliminate as many fires as you can, fine. If it's on the head coach, then obviously he needs to relinquish some of his offensive prowess and give it more to the OC. And if it's more on the OC, then vice versa, right? But my point being is that we draw plays that require way too long to develop. Instead of getting into a game flow, we ran the ball 7 times for 20 yards. I don't know about you, but you ain't gonna win a lot of games if you don't have a mix of running and throwing. That's why the best teams win what they do. You know what I mean? Like even the Patriots ran the ball more than fucking 7 times in the middle of their Super Bowl run. So Debo came out, showed up. Ayuk showed up. Even Jennings showed up. Apparently, we forgot how to tackle Jennings or anyone on the 49ers. So by all means, 49ers earned that win.
I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago where, the Eagles are really good at stopping the run, but they're horrible against the pass is where their defense is breaking down. And I really thought this game was won and lost in both sides of the trenches on the lines. San Francisco was finally able to get after Jalen Hurts. They were actually pressuring him, getting sacks, making bad throws. He left the game for a period of time due to injury. So we got a Marcus Mariota sighting. So I think that was like a big difference. Bosa's getting after him in the playoff game. 49ers didn't touch him. He was clean. Jalen Hurts pretty much had a clean game. And then the other thing was, towards the end of the game, I think there was a couple of offsides or false starts on the Eagles' offensive line.
One of them was kind of bush league, but that's fine.
It's kind of.
How do you know? You were hammered.
Yeah.
No. Josh Sweat, I was, but Josh Sweat was not. When I look at that, Josh Sweat was not offsides. He was not. It was just a blatant call, and it gave the 49ers another chance. But I mean, at that point, the game was already done anyway, so it really didn't matter. But to my point,
I don't know if you saw this video that was going around, but there's a video going around about Lane Johnson and this leg kick. Have you guys seen this video? There's a leg kick where so the offensive line, the right tackle.
Right.
His right foot, he is consistently stepping back to get a leverage point before the ball is hiked. And that
every time.
And that's a false start. By the letter of the law, that's a false start. No other right tackle is getting away with that.
I agree with that. What I also saw that video was also in super, super slow-mo. But to me and Vince's point, it's about time we start getting some full-time officials and not getting these, part-time officials, because you're going to keep having issues with the referees. Game in and game out does not matter which game it is.
This is $1 trillion industry. They can afford to break off, $60K for some per referee. They can afford that,
Yep.
I mean, we're not trying to make every referee a millionaire, but like you can pay them a living wage. And then enough that they can focus solely on being a referee. I mean, there's no reason not to.
To your point, Vince, you could pay the referees $1 million a year and the NFL is not hurting.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you don't need to do that. Like I said, I threw $60K out as a whatever, but like whatever that number is, you can
pay him $100,000 a year
Mhm.
and you're going to see the quality of refereeing going up with the NFL, and $100,000 for what, 20 referees.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Come
mean,
on.
look, I'm not gonna say this is a referee game. It was definitely a 49ers dominated game on both sides of the ball. I mean, yes, they got to Jalen Hurts, but it didn't really happen until more later in the game. Jalen Hurts had that slip down where he fell, trying to scramble. But watching some game tape, I mean, it was a lot of Jalen Hurts not trusting some receivers and not trusting his first looks. I mean, we had a backup tight end, Caltera, that he did not want to throw to. I don't know what the issue was, but we had some wide open opportunities, didn't want to throw there. So I think Jalen Hurts was really indecisive.
You also only had a couple of opportunities for a tush push, and
exactly.
I mean, like down at the end zone, it took 2 tries on the tush push to get in. They didn't get it
Yeah,
on that
but
first one.
that doesn't
just
bother me
saying-
too much, though. It doesn't bother me too
I'm
much
just
because
saying, like honestly, that the tush push, people are bitching about it or whatever, but it's just the Eagles, like they get great leverage and they practice it over and over and over again. And Jalen Hurts can, squat 750 pounds. So it's like just guys that are really, really strong, really, really good. That's how it is. And at least on that first one, they didn't like stop him for 0 yards, but they were 2 yards out and they held him to 1 yard. I mean, so it's moderately slowed down a little bit. They did it again and scored finally, but the fact that it took 2 tries on a tush push to score, that makes me feel pretty confident too. Like,
absolutely,
it's something that you can slow down a little bit. You can, but also keeping the Eagles at 3rd and long the entire game kept them away from being able to tush push.
Yeah, and so I'm curious though, and I want your take onto it. This may be a little debate or debacle between us, but Bosa was saying that the game plan wasn't to go after Jalen Hurts, but to make their presence known, to make him indecisive about what he was doing in the pocket, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's disguising coverages and all that typical stuff.
Right,
That's
but he didn't say coverages. He said the front, their job was not to go after Jalen Hurts. It was to put pressure enough to know that they were there to make him.
Well, it's disguising the rush as well. So like if you have 5 guys looking like they're going to rush, but you're only going to send 4, who's dropping back, things like that. Like who's, so all that stuff.
What I'm saying is that if the Eagles won that game and the 49ers lost, is Bosa still saying that the plan was to disguise the rush, or is that more or less because they didn't get home as much as they thought they were going to get home? They did. And don't get me wrong. I think they had 3 sacks. They did. One of them,
I mean, there was pressure on Jay. There was fairly.
I just kind of call a little bit no. I think
coverage. Coverage was good too.
I think the line met a good line, and instead of saying it was a damn good line, they're going to say, "Oh,
I think you're taking that the wrong way, dude. I think you're taking that the wrong way."
Kind of like what Papa G says in the chat is, you're disrupting them. Yeah, you're trying to sack them and things like that, but you're also just trying to keep them from running. You don't want the quarterback to make a big play on you, because that's what Jalen Hurts does to other teams is, you disrupt him and he's gone. He's off to the races.
Yeah, he didn't really break too many.
But I also, the 49ers defense, I think what really stood out, the line did their job, but who really did their job? The linebackers. The entire linebacking core of the 49ers, even with Greenlaw leaving the game, their linebackers were flying.
I agree.
The game plan was
because
they were executing the game plan. Let's say that.
If any type of play was beyond the line, those linebackers closed gaps, made tackles. Everything was a wrap tackle, take them to the ground. There was no, there were some big hits given, but how many times do you see players, and this is across the league, you see a linebacker just go for a big hit? And you're like, just get the tackle, man. Just make a solid tackle. But they're going for his shoulder. And then the guy bounces off and goes down the field for another, 10, 15 yards or whatever, and the 49ers linebackers were wrapping everything up.
Yeah, I agree. Mm-hmm. It was a complete game, from
the only big hit was the one on Swift at the end of the game where Swift ended up Tebowing for
I
a
have
couple
I have
minutes.
questions about that too, because you guys were, it was the end of the game. Like, why are the starters still even in there at that point? You know what I mean? Like, it should be third stringers or second stringers at that
Yeah, that
point.
should be Kenneth Gainwell and further down the depth chart at that
Exactly.
point.
Yeah. Why risk injuries? We still have the 1 seed. We got to play Dallas this week.
Right. Dallas
should
is
be
the
the
toughest
focus.
game left on your schedule. After that, it's
Yeah.
the Giants
And-
twice. You got the Seahawks.
And Dallas
They're not
now starts.
slouches, but I mean,
And if
Eagles should be
somehow,
able to beat
some way
them.
Dallas wins this game against the Eagles and all teams win out, 49ers got the 1 seed
Yeah,
because
exactly.
they'll have the tiebreaker against everybody.
It's that 1 game lead is really a half a game.
Yeah.
Because if both teams end up with the same record, Niners now have that tiebreaker.
To
And yeah,
our
we'll see what
point, though,
happens, man.
to our point though, is Dallas starts their gauntlet now. So they play against the Eagles, the Dolphins, the Chiefs. Like,
Right. Yeah.
they start
So
their gauntlet.
even if like I mean the Eagles, the Cowboys are the only like really tough team left on your schedule. I
Yeah.
looked ahead. So if you're gonna lose a game, I wouldn't count on losing to the Giants twice. I'm not counting on the Seahawks might put up a
Commanders.
fight, but I don't. Yeah, Commanders and Seahawks, I don't see that happening. So
Yeah.
it could be like this could be the chance that the Niners have to like take the 1 seed from the Eagles.
Yeah.
You know, if the Niners win out and the Eagles lose to the Cowboys and then go on from there, whatever, you know, that's but the Cowboys are still going to lose a couple more other games too. So
Well, I mean, the end
the
goal,
Eagles are going to win this division. I'm convinced of that, but
yeah,
the Cowboys could.
I don't know
you
about a 1
fuck,
seed.
Fuck it up
It's-
for the Eagles.
It's at a question mark, but I mean, the end goal was always we're going to see each other again in the playoffs, right? That's
Right.
the end goal.
Yeah.
You know, obviously we want to take it 1 game at a time, 1 week at a time, but that's the end goal. We're going to see each other again in the playoffs, and yeah, we'll just run it back. You know,
Mhm.
and nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, good. It was a good test that the Niners passed, and the Eagles now know what they need to focus on going forward.
You know what? I take that game as a blessing because I've been so critical about the play calling on the offensive side that our defense never had a chance. I think we were on the field offensively for like 12 minutes the whole game. You know what I mean? Like,
No,
we never
actually,
had a
like,
chance.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to look at it. I actually thought that the Eagles had a slight advantage because of the first quarter was so skewed that for the rest of the game the Niners dominated time of possession, but in the end I think the Eagles actually ended up with more time on the clock, barely, like 31-29 or something like that.
But even still, I mean, that's
yeah.
a game that the Eagles, if you run the ball, you're physical and you dominate the play clock. I've seen Eagles win games handily. I'm like, man, if we could dominate time possession, even with this piss poor offensive calling, we're going to win a lot of games because we don't give the other team another chance to really be able to rebuttal a lot of things. But if you don't keep us on the field long enough, that's when games start getting, you know, hectic and crazy and close to the wire. Those Bills games, those Chiefs games. I think time of possession is the way the Eagles are going to have to win this year, because I don't think we have a coordinator, you know, savvy enough like we did with Shane Steichen, unfortunately. But I did
Real
want
quick,
one thing.
Vince,
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, Vince, do you think this was the 49ers scored on 6 straight drives?
Yeah, 6
put
touchdowns
up a
straight.
42. Do you think this was the best the offensive has looked with Brock Purdy? With all, I mean, all your
probably.
weapons, all your weapons. was
Yeah,
healthy?
I mean, everybody's healthy. Brock was dialed in. Debo had an absolute monster game. Yeah, you'd be hard pressed to find a better performance with Brock at the helm. I think this might be he's starting to peak at the right time. This is the end of the year. This is when you want to be playing your best going into the end of the season and into the playoffs. So
Agreed.
I'm feeling pretty good going forward. Even if the Niners end up dropping one more game somewhere along the way and don't get the 1 seed, I'm not really worried. Like, as far in my mind, the Niners are guaranteed to go to the NFC title game at the very least. Like, I feel like that's the bare minimum of what I expect. And I do expect the Niners to go to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. But if they don't get to at least the NFC title game at this point, then things have gone off the rails somewhere earlier on. And, you know,
Yeah.
Your dad says the perfect QBR game is the best, but against what team? I think, you know, against the Philadelphia
Right.
Eagles,
Well, I mean, this one he had like a 148 or something like that, so it wasn't exactly like It's so, I mean, if he doesn't start those first 2 drives with 3 and outs, then this game's probably a perfect PPR as well.
Against against the team that you're probably going to have to go through to get to the Super Bowl. Like you're probably gonna have to play Philadelphia in the playoffs to get there. So I thought that was pretty cool.
It'll be Philadelphia, it'll be the Cowboys, one or
really?
both of them.
Come on.
No. I'm saying like the Niners will have to play at least one of those guys at some point.
Yeah,
I'm not saying they have to go through them, but like,
all right.
Yeah. Well, at some point they're gonna end up matched up against at least one of those 2 teams.